I do really believe 100% from every part of me that everyone has the capacity to be able to do the things that they want and not to be held back by the mental baggage that's in our head that we want to push through.
Welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. In each episode, we get down and personal with people who go after the things they want to make all their wildest dreams come true. Join us as we unveil and dissect a formula for what it takes to do the thing. Here is your host, Stacey Lauren.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. This is your host, Stacey Lauren. Well, I am excited because I have brought back on Dr. Nancy de Andrade. And for those of you that didn't listen to her episode, please go check it out after you listen to this one, because she is unbelievable and is the reason why I'm able to do the thing. So she has been immensely helpful for me, my career, my personal life, friendships, relationships, so many things that I can't even tell you how much she's impacted me. And so what today's episode is going to be about, it's going to be structured a little bit different. I was actually doing a coaching session with her yesterday. When I talk to her, it's usually just, I have like a notes of all these things that I want to talk about, relating to from kids to my purpose to business. She just gives me such a great insight as to what I want to be able to focus on in my life. And one of the things that came up was whether or not I wanted to do the thing on social media. And I have had what is that word? A stain, abstain, a disdain. That's it. I've had a disdain to social media for actually many years now. And I had gotten too into it for a while and then got out of it. And then I got back into it and it just kind of wasn't great for my mental state. And so I really have taken a big pause from it. So other than LinkedIn, I am really not active at all. And even though I'm open to using it for the brands that I'm about to launch, it's going to be a very corporate type social media where someone else will be running it and it won't be personal at all. But as far as what do the thing, if it goes on social media, I personally won't want to run it. I'll want to have someone else run it. So, that was one thing, is it wouldn't be my voice. And then the other thing is I was just worried it would be like an energy suck for me, especially if I saw certain things. I was talking to Nancy about it and she had said, take clarity about it and then take action. And so I had thought about it yesterday as that was like sitting in me. And I realized this would be like a perfect way for you guys to see how we work through stuff. And sometimes I work through it on my own and sometimes she helps me through it. Obviously in the beginning, she helped me a lot more. Now I've learned how to use the tools that she's provided so I can do exercises on my own. But I thought this was the perfect opportunity to bring her on and we could kind of go through this question together. So I'm introducing again, Dr. Nancy de Andrade.
Awesome. Wow. You really pumped me up. That's amazing. Happy to be a guide and provide tools that are helpful to people,
Yeah, I love that word guide, actually. I don't actually think I've used that word before, but that's actually an accurate word for what you do.
Yeah, because I think coach is definitely a way of, okay, you're empowering people and you're like, I imagine like a football coach where you are telling them like, okay, next time you do this and come on, let's go. And a guide is more like, okay, you turn left here. All right, turn right. Okay, you see that light, run, like that kind of, I don't know. I see it as a way of you have the power inside of you and let me show it to you. Let me show you that you already have the skills and let me maybe light up the places where you haven't seen, like the opportunities, the things that in you that you need to know. So I guess it's a more gentle word, guide, but I can do both. I can push it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen you do both. Okay. So I have to share this if you don't mind, because we had dinner. We just finished our episode. What was it? Just a couple of days ago, I think. And it was really awesome. And then it was kind of funny because I'm listening to it, as I'm trying to make this decision. And I wanted to just play an excerpt from what because everyone will hear the full version, but just to give a a quick version on how this kind of relates to this question. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to play it.
Sure.
I think that people are looking for their purpose a lot of the times, and they want to make the thing something that represents their purpose. And we get caught up in that very often to the point of paralyzing ourselves, because we want to make an impact. We want to change the world in some way. And so we imagine that it has to be this grandiose thing, that our purpose has to be like this, life-changing event. And it can be, absolutely can be, but it can also be just your presence, you being a light to this world. We get caught up sometimes in trying to find our purpose, that we lose sight of just living our lives,
Dang.
Did I say that?
I know. Every time I hear it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so good. There's about, I don't even know, there's probably like 14 of those that I could have played, but that one was perfectly aligned with what this question is, which is, do I want to do the thing on social media? Because even though I thought this was perfect for this podcast, and to share this kind of exercise together, where you will be my guide in making the decision. And I don't know if we'll make the decision today, but I at least thought we could go through the exercise so people could hear how you work, and then whether they do it for themselves or they use someone to help them go through it. I thought it would be good. And the reason why I thought this one was good is because social media, it can kind of take over, right? And so I thought this was a really good example of something we could do together.
I love to. Yes.
Okay, great. I didn't do the normal work I would have done, because I wanted to keep it, really make sure we're kind of doing what we normally do when I'm making decisions like this. But I just did a kind of like a minor pro and con list, just so I could get an idea of what I'm thinking. So what do you think is the best way to start with talking about this? Do you think me going through the pro and con list, or how do you think is the best?
The first question that I would ask you is, what's your intention?
Yeah. So in terms of do the thing on social media, my intention would be so it came up a few times already. One, which was hysterical, because I literally didn't even have the podcast published yet. Oh, I published it today, by the way. So, but I know it's really cool. So I'll share it once yeah. And then but I hadn't even published the podcast yet. I'd maybe done like 4 or 5 interviews, and the guy that built the podcast platform I'm on, he's been helping me, and he's actually the first interview I did, which is cool. And people will really value hearing that one, because it's a great way to give yourself permission to be a beginner, but doing something, which is what we kind of talk about. Mm-hmm. And anyway, he had introduced me to Espree, who is unbelievable. And she's doing this challenge for these podcasters, everyone that wants to start a podcast. And I had the opportunity to speak to this group about starting a podcast.
Wow.
It was cool, right? Because, just by me doing the thing, already got me put into the situation where I got to speak in front of people. So the thing that did for me was it made me realize how much I love helping people and how that really makes me feel. And so back to the social media thing, that was one of the things. They're doing a lot on social media for it, right? Because there are all these podcasters that are starting podcasts. And she's asked me a few times, like, what's your Instagram? And I'm like, I have a LinkedIn. And honestly, I still even have my old company on the LinkedIn. So I say I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm really not doing it well. But anyway, and I wasn't able to share it. And so I'm just wondering, I think intention wise, I think if I really I want to impact people, and I know how much podcasts and books and different things I read and do help me all of a sudden can shift my mindset in such a quick, effective way, because I can do it anytime, anywhere. And so I want to be able to do that for someone, either through something I say, through someone that I bring on, say, through some clarity that they may have gotten. And so that would be my intention, would be just to be able to impact more people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my next question would be, who are the people?
Yeah. So the people I want to be able to impact there's so many people that will look at certain things or hear about some things and they're like, oh man, I wish I could do that. Or I'm stuck in this job, but I'm scared to make a move. And then even in my staffing company that I ran, I just saw a lot of people crippled by fear. I would have, for example, one of the things that really motivated me to even write the book in the beginning was because I had met so many amazing people that I had tried to talk to about taking on a sales job with our business instead of a customer service role or instead of a recruiter role. Because with our company, sales, you make more money and you can impact more because you're able to help people get jobs. And, a lot of them were interested, but they just couldn't do it. They couldn't put themselves out there, in that way. And it wasn't because they didn't want to. That was the difference, right? Like if someone doesn't want to do something, then this isn't the podcast for them. But if they want to do it and then there's something holding them back from doing it, then that's who I really want to be able to help. So whether it's dating, whether it's travel, whether it's business, whether it's the stock market, crypto, I don't care what it is they want to do, but I want them to be able to do it if it's something they want to do. I don't want them to be held back. So that's who I want to help, is the people that want to do the thing, but there's something holding them back from doing the thing.
Mm-hmm. So what I think about is, where are all those people hanging out? What are they looking at? Are they looking at TikToks? Are they scrolling through Instagram? Are they on LinkedIn? Like where do they spend time? Because I think that there's a very different, what's the word I'm looking for? People spend time in places where they want to be either entertained, inspired, or educated. And so depending on the type of people that you want to impact, you don't have to impact the entire world. You may just focus on, for example, those entrepreneurs who are ready to shift, or those people who are working in the corporate job and they're wanting to do the thing. And so imagine those people who are ready to have information, ready to read the book. They don't go necessarily to TikTok to read the book, even though they might in their spare time find a TikTok that suggests a book. I'm not saying that those are not impactful for sure, but what I want to say is notice when people are searching for information, where do they go? And a podcast is an amazing source of information. A book is an amazing source of information. Now think about, where did you learn about all the books that you've read? Was it on TikTok? Was it on Instagram? Was it on LinkedIn? Where was it? Where did you learn about, an amazing podcast, And I'm not saying that there's no value in social media. What I'm saying is when you find clarity about who you want to serve and what kind of information you want to provide, that actually filters the type of social media presence that you want to have. The same with, the age range and so on. I'm telling you that the 20-year-olds are not on Facebook, So just, you have to really look at with clarity, what is it that you want to share? Now, maybe a 20-year-old who's watching TikTok tells his mom or dad, like, hey, I saw this on TikTok. This was cool. And they influence their parents in that way. But I think it's more about the clarity of your intention, the way that you want to impact people, and that it becomes so clear to you. Your message is so clear, regardless of what medium you use. Does that make sense?
It does. And it's interesting hearing you talk, because clarity of intention, I'm actually thinking more about this now. And I think the thing that is kind of making me think about it more is because I don't have a way to honor the person that gave me their time for the interview. And I'm getting so much out of these interviews, right? Like I'm interviewing these amazing people that are doing the thing. And I'm learning so much from them because I'm getting to hear their formula of how they do the thing. And so many things are coming out. And then I think it's something with that reticular activating system for me. But after I listen to it, then I'm noticing all these clues that week after I've done the episode that are kind of repeating back the formula in my own life. And so it's just been this kind of really cool experience. And I think that's the piece that I don't know if missing or wanting to figure out is that way to really honor them other than just publishing it in the podcast without having a way for them to, share it. I mean, I guess they could share it just with the link or for them to feel honored in a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense. And that's a very giving and amazing way of you honoring them. It's like telling the world, like, look at these amazing people. Everybody, hello, I found a jewel. Come on, everybody see it. And I so appreciate that. I really do. And like you were saying earlier, the people that want to do the thing are going to listen to your podcast. They are. The people that don't, it's going to land on deaf ears. And so they will find you. And perhaps it's through a sponsor ad or it's through word of mouth, is all of that. You have no idea, like, honestly, how it can spread. It could be a blog. It could be just so many ways that you can share. Now, I like the approach that you were mentioning earlier, which is I'm going to use social media as a way to promote this, not as a way of sharing my personal life. It's sort of like you're using social media versus social media using you, and that's an amazing approach because it's so clear. It's so centered. It says, this is a resource. This is like a train where I'm putting my products and I'm taking them across country. This is a way that I'm sharing this information with the world and sort of trying to spark the light in people, letting them know, like, hey, if by any chance you see this and you are right there at that stage where you need the little push, you better listen to this. So I do appreciate that. It's both honorable and smart. It's a smart approach, I would say. Mention something for the listeners, because you mentioned the reticular activating system, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that, if that's okay.
Oh my gosh. Yes, please.
So there is a little section of the brain, the reticular activating system, that serves as a filter for all the information that our brain is perceiving currently. Like, if you probably know this, but the brain can capture 11 million bits of information at the same time. What does that mean? Right now, you're capturing the light and the temperature and the shades with your eyes, with your senses. You're capturing the colors and the shades of the colors, the different hues. You are capturing the temperature in your skin and your fingers, but at the same time in your torso, how it's different. You're capturing my accent, the speed of my voice, the tone, the pitch, everything. You are capturing your breath. Like, all this information is coming at you every second, 11 million bits every second. So how does the brain decide, whoa, what do I do with all this information? Well, it uses the filter, the reticular activating system filter, where it says, okay, I only have capacity for full 40 bits of information at a time. So I need to decide what's important or what's interesting. So when you are listening to this podcast, you are deciding that what we are saying right now is important. And so you are filtering everything that is around you. You are saying, that's not important, that's not interesting, that's not important, that's not interesting. What they are saying is important and interesting. And so your brain decides that information. Now, when you were referring it to as in being exposed to so much information, and now my reticular activating system is activated, what you're saying is you are deciding what is important in your life, and you're paying attention to that which already exists all around you. All of this information already exists. We're not saying anything new. We're not inventing anything new. All of this information already existed, but your awareness was not on it. And so the moment that you decide, I want to put my awareness in this topic, then you start realizing, whoa, and there's this one too, and this one, and this one, and this one. It's sort of like the example that I usually give is you decide that you want to buy, I don't know, a red motorcycle. And all of a sudden you start seeing in the streets red motorcycles everywhere. You're like, wait a minute, did everybody decide to buy a red motorcycle? What the heck? And so what's happening though is that you told your brain, this is important for me. And the brain said, got you. I am going to erase from your view or from your senses, not erase it, but sort of numb from your senses, the blue Volkswagens and the white Jeeps and all of the rest of the things that are not important to you. And I am going to highlight what is important, which is the red motorcycles. And so the same thing with thoughts. If you believe that everybody's out to get you, guess what? You are telling your brain, this is what's important to me. And so you are going to start noticing, oh, see, that person cut in front of me. Oh, that person didn't hold the door for me. That person pushed me. What's going on? Or this person is taking advantage of me. And all of the people that are kind to you, that smiled in the streets, that helped you in some way, that paid for you or things like that, unfortunately, you don't see them. And so your focus makes a difference. Your awareness on what you need to focus, what you want to focus, makes a difference on what you see in the world. The world has everything in it, including these possibilities. And so when you are tapping into people like Stacey, you are starting to see opportunities. You're starting to see positivity. You're starting to see that the world's your oyster and you can conquer and do anything you want. So my encouragement with this small or long explanation is notice what you're focusing on, notice what you're thinking, and shift it to progression, to positivity, to love, to abundance, to everything that you need, because it's possible.
I am so glad that you explained that, because what comes to mind for me when I'm hearing you talk more about the reticular activating system and how easy it is to recognize your brain, notice it, and to activate it with the car example, it really shows. It's a beautiful example of how easy it is for us to shift our brain and to reframe things based on how we think, right? I think there's so many people that think, oh, I can't change this about me. This is how I am. This is how I've always been. And this is this pattern. But when you actually can reframe what you're thinking about, it really does change. It changes everything. And I think that's a really good example of, well, you really can just do this car example like today. Think of, let me look at every red motorcycle out there. And then all of a sudden that's what you're going to notice. I think that's such a good example of showing how easy it is to do that. Is that a neural pathway thing? Not to get sidetracked here, but I'm curious.
So the brain perceives information through all the senses. And so we have the visual transmission of information, the kinesthetic, taste, smell, sight, hearing. And so all this information goes through neurons. And yes, it is a neural pathway that you form, and you decide how strong that neural pathway is. Now, the key here, though, is that if you grew up in an environment that is of limitations and poverty and I don't know, limited thinking, you form neural pathways and that reinforce that belief. And a lot of people break through those, and it's not easy. I mean, some people that I admire so much broke through family patterns that were so hard and constricting, but they did it in a way that was self-empowering. And so by doing that, it's sort of like you're learning a new language. You are telling yourself, I will no longer speak that limited language. I am going to build a new language. And so the less you practice that language, the more you forget about that language. The more you practice this new language, the more you reinforce and remember that language. But there is information that is sometimes stored because of trauma. And it's such a lot of memories and everything is stored either by repetition or by an emotional component. And so when severe trauma happens, unfortunately, the brain says, wait a minute, this is important because I don't want to suffer like this again. What do I need to do? I need to make sure that I don't repeat that, or I need to make sure that I avoid that. And at times it becomes confusing because people may think that by staying in a job that they hate because it pays them, the bills or whatever, and not doing the thing is a safe place to be, they are probably avoiding the pain of change. They're probably avoiding the trauma that they experience. And so that is the piece that we were talking about in the previous podcast about getting to know yourself. Because sure, I can say, oh no, I'm great. I am wonderful. I am prosperous. I am da-da-da, whatever. But if your energy, your alignment is not there, if you don't really feel it, then there's nothing you can say, no positive affirmations you can say that will change your mind. And so getting to know yourself is really identifying, like, what is that fear that I have? Why can't I do the thing? Why can't I take that step? What's blocking me? And so that is once you identify that and you heal that, then yes, you can change it. But you can also start by maybe expanding your mind a little bit and saying, what if I had other opportunities? What if life could be another way? What if I could try this? What if, I listen to Stacey and she makes it seem so possible. And she's so encouraging. What if I can do it? And so even that curiosity starts shifting your reticular activating system to saying, wait a minute, this is interesting. This is interesting. I'm going to focus on this now and see where this might take me. So that's how I wrap it all together.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that we got into this again today, because it is so important to me as I'm helping encourage people and inspire them, hopefully between the people that I've on and hopefully things that are impacting people on doing the thing. I really want to make sure they're not just doing the thing, because they want to do the thing without really tapping into the why, and it's actually comes back to your question, which is, what is my intention for wanting to do this thing, which in our case, it was the social media thing. And I just, I love that because it's easy just to move. Right. And I do have that. I mean, there is that side of me. I'm trying to get an interview with, he was like my very old boss from forever ago. And I'm trying to interview him because he really impacted my life. And I remember I was going through a hard time and I was talking to him about why I didn't think I could do something. He wants me to join a nonprofit that he's like on the board of and wants me to be on the board of it. And I remember telling him I was having some personal stuff going on and that I was reflecting and things like that. And he's like, Stacey, you've got to just knock on another door. Or what he said, Stacey, remember in our book selling days, you didn't sit back and go like, why didn't it work out? And going through this reflective place of after each door that I would knock on, I didn't sit there and go, why didn't it work out? Why did they say no? I just went and knocked on another door. And I do think like he actually helped me because that did help me move. Right. And it got me out of my little funk that I was in. But there's a balance between knocking on the next door. Right. And then also being able to really decide that intention piece.
Yeah. I love that. Knock on another door. What that tells me is stop focusing on what went wrong. Stop focusing on the past. Stop focusing on the things that you cannot do and shift your focus on possibilities. I love that. It's sort of like saying, stop speaking that limited language and start focusing on the possibilities. Instead of saying, I can't do it, ask, how can I do it? Or how else can I do it? I love that. That's great advice that they give you.
Yeah. I'm excited. I hope he actually just called me the other day saying he's wanting to do it. He's just trying to figure out timing. So
nice. The other piece is, what is your intention? And you beautifully express, my intention is to help people, to impact people. And when you dig deeply into that intention, there are people who would say, my intention is to make a lot of money. My intention is to have freedom. My intention is to just be popular or whatever, And when you really look at your intention deeply, that's where you find if this is sort of ego-driven or if this is something from you are sharing from your fulfillment, from a full life, because you are already in that space of plentifulness and you want to share what's coming out of you. And what a lot of people don't understand is that they have plenty inside of them. What people think is, I need to do this to feel full. I need to have that to feel full. And what they forget is that there's something that they already have that they can share with the world. And it could be making people feel amazing. It could be making them laugh. It could be, let me help you with this. It could be, I'm really good with numbers. Let me, share my knowledge. There's so many ways in which we can support other people and we can impact them. And so when we recognize that we have fullness in us, then the intention, it becomes so different. Sometimes intention can come from pain. And so every time you have to ask yourself, is this how I want to show up in the world with this intention from my pain, And so to do the thing, it takes courage because you have to face those questions. You have to really ask yourself, am I being really truthful with myself and with people, with others? Am I coming from a space of love and abundance,
Yeah. So as you're saying that, what's coming to my mind, the needing this to feel full. So this is interesting. This might go in a direction I don't want to share on this podcast, but I'm just going to say it and we'll see where it goes. But but yeah, because, with my business, I was a staffing company, and it was like the ultimate thing for me because, I have this high altruism side, and then I also have this high achiever side. And so I was able to impact so many people because, when you're getting people jobs and helping them create opportunities for themselves, which then goes back to their families. There's really nothing better than that for me, or at least there wasn't. It was so amazing. Mm-hmm. And it was such a gift to be able to have my business as a vehicle to help, so many people. And so there's that big side. And then on the company side, we also helped a lot, which was some of them were bottlenecked for growth because hiring people and the right people really can bottleneck your growth if you're still doing it or it's not going well. And so we were able to partner with companies to be able to take care of the employee side of their business. And I know it helped them grow immensely. We had so many clients, which then when you help the company, right, it goes back to the employees because then they can hire more people. There's more growth. It kind of was this cycle of just amazing help. And so I am really missing that. I'm really missing that. And so, oh my God, I'm literally going to cry right now.
Because that's your soul speaking. Your heart is connecting to that. Your heart is saying, I'm craving this, Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And it's funny. I kind of I went through this identity kind of thing after I exited, and I just didn't realize how much it's still there, and maybe as I'm doing this podcast and I've started just talking to people and just hearing different things, it's just bringing up that it's almost filling that void a little, it's starting to fill the void of me being able to help. And then I think when I was mentioning that, doing that talk for that group of podcasters, it just reminded me how much I love doing that. And so anyway, I thought I'd mention that to see, just what you think about.
That's incredible because that tells you, and anybody that's listening to this podcast can see how when you are feeling in your heart that desire, and it has nothing to do with how popular you are or how loved you feel or how much money you're making. That's when you feel like, wow, I'm connected to my purpose. And it's coming from your heart. It's not your mind, your soul, not your mind, your ego, it's your soul and your heart connecting to that purpose. And so I would say that when people follow that, they follow their heart, then the rest of abundance and everything that you want follows them. I have clients who are thinking like, well, how do I, start my business, whatever, I'm doing this business and this other business. And at times is just dancing, honestly, like dance. And it's that movement, that feminine movement that really moves the energy for them. And you would think that has nothing to do with business. It has so much to do with business. So think outside the box. Think about what really fills your heart versus what do you see yourself on what do you see in social media and how do you compare to other people? Like, stop comparing yourself. Comparison is the killer of creativity. Stop comparing yourself and thinking, I have to do it this way or that other way. Like, follow that that inspiration that you feel inside of you. And that's why my first question is, what is your intention? Because that will connect you to your heart, what you truly desire.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going back to your question to me yesterday, which is have clarity about it and take action. So if we're going back to the social media question, I'm having more clarity now after this conversation, because I was originally thinking why I wanted it to go on social media was because I wanted to be able to impact more people. But what came out through this conversation is that's not it at all, because my people may not even be on social media. They might just be listening to other podcasts, and it'll happen more organically. What my real intention would be a way to honor the person that I'm interviewing in a way that they're able to, it's able to get out that way. So what do you think's the next question then?
So the issue of having clarity and then taking action came from a state of confusion. Like, I don't know, should I do this? Should I do that? And whenever you feel confused about something, don't take action. Just pause for a moment and sit with it. And first center yourself and get that clarity. Because if you are not clear in which direction to go, you're just going to bump yourself into walls. And the most important thing is that you feel, I know sometimes having clear like goals, and it's a bit confusing. Sometimes you need to just have clarity about just the next step and see where that takes you. But when you have at least clarity of like, okay, I am clear about my intention, that I know. And so the next step shows up for you. And the next step shows up, and the next step. And so part of trusting the process is learning how to go with the flow. It's learning how you just sit back for a second, center yourself, and then state your intention, and let the universe show you the next step. And the next step might be, okay, now that you're coming from this calm state, let me show you this person, or let me show you this email, or let me connect you to this person. And that connection will lead you to the next and the next and the next and the next level. Now, that requires that you trust the process. That requires that you continuously become center every single step of the way, that you don't get caught up in the rush and the hustle, but you really remain connected with yourself, connected to your center, your intention. Very often in business, people lose sight of their intention and they get caught up in the hustle or other things. And that's why a lot of companies have their vision statement to sort of recenter them. Like, what is my vision? What is my mission in this life? And so that's really important that you state that. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't change. Visions change. We change all the time. Society changes. The world changes all the time. But if you can remain center in the purity of your intention, then it can be transformative in many different ways. I don't even know if I answered your question, but
yeah, that was. I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because I feel like I'm kind of hearing a lot of the pieces of the formula, that I've already kind of had higher level from between the, with the people that I've interviewed, like the don't compare yourself to others is a piece, right? Because doing the thing, if you're comparing yourself to others, that's a disaster. And then the clarity about the next step. I had several people actually talk about, like, just don't have to focus too much on, like, there's a place for the future thinking, but there's also that point of just focus on what's next, right? Because it can be too overwhelming to think of what you have to do, for the whole thing. One of the things I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts on is jumping in has been a common thread between most of the people that I've interviewed. One person mentioned she wanted a safety net, where she actually gave a great example of having like a lifeboat next to her before she made a move. But I think she was the only one that did that. I think everyone else said, jump in. Otherwise you go into that analysis paralysis. So how do you kind of navigate through jumping in, but also jumping in based on your own body wisdom and kind of what we're talking about right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you are, let's say, the main provider for your family, And, people depend on you and you have to pay bills, and there's, things that need to get paid, life insurance, health insurance, mortgage, etc. The thought of like quitting your job and jumping into something seems like not really safe and realistic, right? And so you have to also realize that part of being in alignment is making sure that your energy is at ease. And if you're going to take the step of just jumping in and leaving everything behind, and it's going to create so much anxiety and pain, then you're going against what your soul is asking, which is ease. And so for some people, it could be easy to just go and jump in because they have a support system, or they have, the ability to shift. But some people do not have the luxury of just shifting so quickly. And so I would say, start with something. That's the way that I would say jump in. Start with something. Don't just give up everything and just jump in the water with no life vest, without, not knowing how to swim. First, get a life vest, and then take some swimming lessons, and then just practice in the water, in the pool, and then little by little, but do not stay outside the pool, looking at the pool saying, I wish I could swim. Go in and take the steps one at a time. Your vision is to become the next, gold medal swimmer. Then take the next indicated step. And the next indicated step says, okay, what are you going to do? Really? You're not going to stay doing the same complaining or wishing. Take the next step. That's where I would say jump in comes in. If you have the ability to like really jump in, that you have the support system, the financial system in place and everything, then what are you waiting for? Go do it. And through action, that's when you discover more and more who you are and what you need for yourself.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that with action, because that's been my motto, really my whole adult life is action cures fear, because that's just how it's worked for me. What do you think about that? Action cures fear.
What that means in my mind, it means I'm afraid of the unknown. I'm afraid of being rejected. I'm afraid that I'm going to fail. And so courage is not necessarily not feeling afraid. Courage is taking that step, facing that fear, is saying, I am going to do what I need to do in spite of the fear. I'm freaking out, but I'm still going to do that. And so what we discover very often, once we do something, is like, oh, wait, I guess that wasn't that hard, because we make it up so big in our mind. Our ego is there to say, wait a minute, Nancy, don't you dare do that, because you know what? If you fail, you're going to feel horrible. Or if they reject you, no, you're going to be outcasted. It makes it so big. The ego makes it so big to the point of like, I don't want to be outcasted. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to fail. I don't want to feel that pain. And so the ego is there to protect you from pain, when in reality, a lot of the time there's no pain. But we imagine there could be pain based on whatever programs we have or whatever context we come from. And so when we face it, we might face rejection, yes. And we might face failure, yes, absolutely. But the reward of doing it is so amazing that we're like, okay, now I know what to do. Now that I've faced this, I know how hard or how easy it can be. I got this. It's a familiar thing now. Okay, it's not just this unknown. I can see now what it could be like. And it makes it a lot easier. So I love that. The cure for fear is action. When you take action, you get to know yourself. I
love that. And it's like you actually evolve too as you're doing it, because you're learning more, about yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, okay. I'm really glad that we did this. I think that this was really helpful, and I'm hoping the listeners were able to learn from it as well, just how easy it is to it could be just this simple question like we had, and then you can uncover a lot, like actually I didn't even realize I still had some gaps in my fulfillment from my business. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, you discover so much when you ask yourself questions, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, right? You discover more about yourself when you're asking the questions versus just moving through and just doing it anyway. So there is the point of doing the thing. And then there's also the point of of pausing for a minute, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you say you're going to say something, you can ask yourself, what's my intention? Why am I saying what I'm saying? Or why am I acting this way? Why am I about to do this? Why do I want that? And so you really get to know yourself in that way. And you can be in such an integrity when you show up fully in knowing yourself, fully in integrity with what you believe and you want for the world and for yourself.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Okay, so for the listeners, I'm going to just wait for now. I'm not going to be on social media yet. I'm going to let it sit for a bit, let this podcast sort of do its thing naturally. And I think I'll just see how it feels, after a little bit of time and what direction I decide to go with it.
Yeah, exactly. Sit for a second. The social media is not going to end tomorrow. So.
That's true, right? It's like, why do I have to make these decisions right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Mm-hmm. And something that I would say is important to understand is, why the MLM systems, are around for so long is because one person influences 10 people, and each of those 10 people influences 10 people, and each of those 10 people influences 10 people. The word spreads like that. And passion spreads like that. And soon people know about things that are happening in that way. And so I think you influencing one person can influence 20 people at the same time. Your employees, your coworkers, your family, like that makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this today. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you, putting yourself out there and, being able to do this on a recording also.
Oh, my pleasure. No, it's a joy talking with you and sharing this information with everyone. I love your passion and your intention, to impact people. I love that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And for those people that would like to learn more about you, do you mind just kind of sharing where they can find you? And I had you mention your background in the other interview, but I just realized I didn't in this one. Do you mind just kind of like giving a little quick summation of what you do and then where people can find out about you too?
Yeah. If you type my name, Nancy de Andrade, you'll find more information about me as you search on different platforms. And on my website as well. I have a PhD in clinical psychology and tons of education, energy psychology, in mysticism, spirituality, tons of techniques that I've learned throughout the years. And my practice has evolved into more of a wellness coaching, a holistic style of coaching, a lot more grounded in spirituality than ever before. So for those who are interested, I do offer sessions and I also teach psychology at National University and some energy psychology techniques at the Motivational Institute for Hypnotherapy. And I'm also creating a course on how to become a holistic life coach as well. I think integrating body, mind, spirit is really important for an overall well-being and to move you forward.
Thanks for listening to the Do the Thing podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, but even more, we hope you'll be inspired to do the thing. Do you have a burning question on doing the thing that you'd like answered? How about an inspiring do the thing story of your own that you'd like to share? We'd love to hear all about it. Just leave us a voice message at dothething.callcast.co or email us at hello@dothethingpodcast.com.